case you hadn't already heard, Florida Power & Light, or FPL, is moving swiftly to push forward their plans that would increase their base rates for our electricity by nearly 20% over the next 4 years. The backstory is, FPL filed this proposal to the Florida Public Service Commission, or PSC, which is their state regulator, back in March of 2021. Then, after a lot of pushback from the public and some discussions, FPL filed for a settlement that reduces this rate increase ever so slightly, but I'll break down the details in just a minute. If the PSC approves this new version of the rate increase, the average household utility bill is set to increase by upwards of $200 each year by 2025. When you look around, the COVID-19 pandemic is still raging on, especially here in the state of Florida. Nothing has gone back to normal for those who are still grappling with the ongoing losses and hardships. This is not the time to increase the cost of essential services for those who are still struggling to financially recover. For example, in July of just this year, more than 600,000 of FPL's customers struggled to meet their monthly bill payment. That's over 500,000 households. So what does FPL want to use all of this money for? They've loaded their wish list with pretty much everything but the kitchen sink. And if this settlement passes, they're poised to raise several $1 billion off the backs of residential customers while excluding us from the wealth of benefits that we could be reaping from the energy system. They also love to position FPL as a climate champion in the process. You may have seen them in this marketing video.
We're always looking the future straight in the eye. When the future said cut back on foreign oil, we tore down the old plans and made way for clean, American-made natural gas.
But in reality, FPL fights meaningful climate policy tooth and nail. And they want their residential customers to foot the bill for continued investment in fossil fuel infrastructure and the cleanup needed for all of their environmental messes. Some of the billions from this rate hike are set to go towards continued investment in natural gas infrastructure. These natural gas plants are misleadingly labeled as efficient and clean and even needed by residential customers, increasing and already high electricity demand. Meanwhile, the fact of the matter is, energy efficiency measures are the most cost-beneficial and effective response to our compounding energy challenges in the 21st century. Yet, FPL is consistently ranked among the lowest for their investment in low-income energy efficiency programs, and they actively lobby against the utility scale efficiency benchmarks that would be truly beneficial for all of us, reducing energy waste, enabling them to serve more customers, and giving us the benefit of lower bills. This also comes with the potential for natural gas to become a stranded asset, which has been recognized by regulators elsewhere across the nation. It's intended for these investments to replace coal capacity, but the settlement includes some wonky mechanisms that would force ratepayers to bear the cost of that coal capacity for years to come. Talk about intergenerational injustice. It's also important to note that $20 million would be going towards additional industry association dues, which are pretty much membership costs that serve their corporate interests at the expense of customers like you and I. You'll also hear FPL emphasize allocations towards clean energy. The settlement agreement includes an authorization for expanding the Solar Together program, and it sets aside $200 million for electric vehicle infrastructure. It's important to note that the Solar Together program is really controversial. It essentially allows FPL to double bill customers for solar energy. And it also portions out a higher share of that solar capacity for their commercial and industrial customers. So it keeps people like you and I from accessing a fair portion of the program compared to what we're paying into it. Parties in the case have referred to it as a massive transfer of wealth from the residential class to participating commercial and industrial customers. So the cost looks like it's going to be a couple $100 million on paper, but it's important to note that FPL expects to make over $2 billion from these solar investments alone. You might be wondering, well, clearly FPL knows better than us how much it would cost to pay for these programs and energy infrastructure, so what's the problem? Well, a truly just transition does not need to come at the expense of hardworking, already financially burdened people. And that's exactly who is footing the bill here, the residential customers, aka you and I. FPL has repeatedly stated that they're proud of keeping FPL's typical residential customer bills well below the national average through the end of 2025. For starters, this is based on the completely unrealistic and false assumption that the average customer for every utility uses an average of 1,000 kilowatt hours per month. FPL's performance in terms of residential customer bills is far below the average when compared to other large investor-owned utilities. Interestingly, FPL doesn't dispute this fact during the rate case itself, but they continue to use the false average in all public-facing information about their proposals. We cannot let the state's largest utility, FPL, continue prioritizing profits over the people they're supposed to serve. After a 7-month moratorium on disconnections in 2020, FPL disconnected power 250,000 times in 3 short months, as many of our neighbors struggled to keep up with their utility bills. Meanwhile, in 2020, the same year, FPL banked $2.6 billion in net earnings. And FPL's president and CEO, Eric Salagi, received a compensation package of almost $9 million. Residents' voices matter, but we're largely left out of these key conversations and decisions that affect our daily lives. We need to shed light on FPL's actions. We need to stop this rate increase, and we really need to start a meaningful dialogue about what it would look like and how we can all build a clean and renewable energy future that is fair and beneficial for everyone, because quite frankly, that's our only viable option.